Hi, friends. Welcome to this new series that we are creating at the Brave Coalition. We are going to be talking with women every week who have faced breast cancer and have had to make serious decisions about their treatment as well as their reconstruction. I'm really excited to welcome you to this series. We've just kicked off October Breast Cancer Awareness Month for 2021. And we felt it was really important to hear from women what they have experienced when they've received a breast cancer diagnosis and when they're facing reconstruction. For those of you who don't know Brave very well or are new to Brave, Brave stands for Breast Restoration, Advocacy, and Education. And for those of you who don't know me, I am Ashley Libby Diaz. I am on the board of directors of Brave. I will be your host for this new series. And I too am a young adult breast cancer survivor. I'm going to share with you more about my story as we go on in this first episode. But before we do, I'd love to share with you the idea for this new series we're creating and where it came from. So earlier this year, in the midst of the pandemic, I read a book by Dr. Bruce Perry and Oprah Winfrey called What Happened to You? And it's a fascinating book that really illuminated a lot of things for me. And it got me thinking about breast restoration and breast cancer and what we go through when we face our diagnosis and a series of decisions that will ultimately affect our lives for a long time going forward. And so I thought it might be really interesting to talk with women and ask them, what made you decide? What led you to make the decisions that you made about your treatment? What led you to make the decisions you made about your restoration? And what might you share with other women who are facing these same decisions? What are things you wish you had known or considered before you made the decisions you made? And how are you doing today in light of everything you've been through? Of course, it's really important to also talk with the loved ones of survivors. They go through an ordeal too. And so we'll also invite on spouses and partners of women who have been through breast cancer and breast restoration and talk with them about their experience and what it's meant to them and how they see supporting their spouse or partner through this critical time in their lives. So I'm so glad you're here with me. This is an exciting moment for us at Brave, and I'm thrilled to invite some of our Brave ambassadors in our upcoming series, as well as to talk with many other women who have faced this horrible diagnosis and are having to make some really difficult decisions. I know when I was facing my diagnosis and thinking about the decisions that I had to make, it really helped me to talk with other women who have faced these same decisions and been through this battle too. And since my diagnosis and treatment, I've also talked with so many women about their experience and what they're going through. And so I'm so excited to have this platform to bring stories to you, to our audience, to help you perhaps understand what it is to go through breast cancer or what decisions lie in the wake of a breast cancer diagnosis. So it's great to be here. Of course, this is a difficult conversation, and from time to time, I'm sure that you will see tears from me, from our participants, but it is so important to bring this information to you. And so thank you for being here with us, and we'll hope you follow along. So as I mentioned, I'm a breast cancer survivor myself. And since I'm going to be asking women to share their experience with us and with our brave audience and women who are going to be facing these decisions or who are currently facing these decisions. I thought perhaps it might be important to share some of the answers to these questions that I'm going to be asking of them. So really quickly, let me share with you a bit about my diagnosis before we dive into some of these other topics and questions. So I was diagnosed with breast cancer at the age of 36 on December 3rd, 2013. I am approaching my 8-year survivor mark, and it's still challenging. It's still a hard time, especially in October. And as we approach my diagnosis day, it's still a hard time. And those feelings of receiving that diagnosis and hearing you have cancer just don't go away. But it's really important to talk about these things so we don't feel isolated and alone. So the diagnosis that I received in December 2013 was invasive ductal carcinoma, and my breast cancer was what is known as ER positive and PR positive. So essentially my cancer was growing in the ductal tissue, and it had spread beyond the ductal tissue and had spread into the fatty tissue of my breast. And because it was ER positive and PR positive, that means that essentially my cancer was feeding off of the estrogen and the progesterone hormones that my body was producing. So in the wake of that diagnosis, I had to make some serious decisions and also changes in my life. And the very first decision was to get tested for a lot of different potential genetic variants that could determine the course of my treatment. Of course, a lot of people hear about BRCA1 and BRCA2 genes, which are genes that can increase women's likelihood of getting breast cancer and ovarian cancer. Both of those were negative for me, and that was important to know in my decision going forward. So upon receiving those results, my first decision was really, how am I going to treat this? How do I want to treat this? And after consulting with my breast surgeon, my plastic surgeon, the only decision that felt right to me was to have a bilateral mastectomy. I was 36 at the time and very active, as I still am. And if I chose to go the route of having radiation and a lumpectomy to just remove the lump, then what would have happened is that I would have had to go in for an MRI scan every 6 months to make sure that the cancer wasn't growing back. So the reason for that is I have really dense breast tissue and fibrocystic breast tissue. So the reason that I ended up even getting a workup for breast cancer is that my cat, my husband, his cat and my cat had stood on me one day in bed, and I felt this searing pain in my right lower breast, and I shot out of bed. I had been a physical therapist in my first career and knew that that pain was not normal. And so I kept an eye on it. But other than feeling pain in that spot reliably, I didn't feel anything. And so for a year and a half, I kept feeling that pain and having doctors tell me we could do a chest x-ray, or it must be just fibrocystic breast tissue. And I knew that wasn't the case, but I had no other evidence. And then one day in October of 2013, I suddenly, the night before my annual exam, felt a lump in my breast. And that started that workup. And even after that, my mammogram was negative. So it required a biopsy and ultrasound to find the tumor and to get it biopsied to get my diagnosis. So ultimately, I just decided I didn't have it in me to go in for an MRI every 6 months for the rest of my days. I felt as though I might feel like a ticking time bomb, just waiting for another tumor to show up. So I made the hard decision at 36 to have a bilateral mastectomy, and from there choose reconstructive surgery. At the time, I didn't really know what reconstructive surgery would be for me. My surgeon had shared options with me and we talked about what the outcomes might be, but it was really pretty early on in my journey to go down that road. So I trusted my surgeons. I trusted my instinct that bilateral mastectomy would be right for me, and I went that route. So towards the end of January of 2014, I did in fact have a bilateral mastectomy. After that, it was essentially a waiting game for all of my tissue to heal. After surgery, I had what are called tissue expanders put in. My plastic surgeon placed those at the time of my bilateral mastectomy. And it took about 10 weeks for my wounds to heal, for my incisions to heal. And slowly, we expanded my tissue expanders to the point where I would be able to have reconstructive surgery at a point down the road when I chose. So that really was what led me to that point. And once I had bilateral mastectomy, it was a natural choice for me to move to reconstruction. I've talked with many women who have chosen something else. Maybe they've chosen not to have reconstructive surgery. And it's really a personal decision that every woman has to make in the wake of her diagnosis. When it came to actually the time to head to my reconstructive surgery, I had so much experience with my plastic surgeon that I trusted him implicitly. And so when we talked about my options for reconstruction, I listened to the options and weighed the options and really consulted him and took his suggestions to heart and advice to heart. So ultimately, a number of months later, in the fall of 2014, I ended up having reconstructive surgery. And the route we chose to take was a silicone breast implant that was shaped and textured. Now, one of the things that's come to light since that time is that implants have different safety profiles, and it has been in the news that some silicone breast implants and other implants can have risks associated with them. And I was certainly aware of some of the risks, and again, trusted my surgeon. Now, one of the things that I would say is it's really important to understand the safety profile of the implants your surgeon is recommending. So when I spoke with my surgeon, my implants, which are made by a company called Sientra, have a 1 in 150,000 risk profile associated with them. So even they're the type of implants, loosely speaking, that are in the news, I have a really safe implant and feel very comfortable with what my surgeon recommended. Similarly, because I was 36 and facing this new look, I really trusted my surgeon when it came to giving me the look that I wanted. So I'm very athletic. My husband and I are constantly outdoors, skiing, biking, hiking. I wanted something that felt as natural as possible and something that would be really comfortable for doing all of those activities. And so again, really trusted my surgeon when it came to picking the right size of implant that would look really natural and as much like my my breast as possible. So so we went that route, and following surgery in the fall of September 2014, I had a 10-week period where I wore a post-operative bra to hold my implants in place. Since they were shaped, the last thing we wanted was them to rotate. So we really waited for me, and I kept really quiet. I was really good while they healed in place and wore this post-operative bra to help. So today, I'm so thankful I went the route that I did. I'm thankful to have implants that are safe, that feel natural, that feel normal, that allow me to do all of the activities that I love to do without any issues. There are some things that I wish I would have known, and this is a question we'll get into when we talk, when I talk with other women who are going to join me here for these conversations. So the first one is, and this wasn't a secret, but I didn't know until I had the experience, is that the tissue expanders are not the most comfortable. They're really important to expand the tissue slowly as it heals and prepare for implants, for permanent implants, but they're not super comfortable. They feel a bit like boulders on the chest. At least for me, they did. And so I was really thrilled when I was finally able to move to reconstruction and have implants. They feel much more normal, much more natural to me. And so I'm really pleased with that. Something else I wish I had known going in is that I had really, really thin tissue left after my bilateral mastectomy. So you might hear this referred to as flaps. So really, really thin tissue flaps. And what that means is that at certain times in certain positions, I have just a few very minor wrinkles and ripples that you can see in my implants, or you can see my implants when I move in certain ways. So normally I'm quite covered, but as a young woman, I thought maybe let's see if there's something that we can do about that. And so the option that I decided to go in conjunction with my plastic surgeon is to have fat grafting about 10 weeks after my reconstruction. I knew there was a possibility that doing this might not change the aesthetic results of my implants, which I'm incredibly happy with. But I knew there was a chance that going down this route might not change much. I also knew there was a chance that it would last for a time, and if I was happy with the result, I might need to do it again. So I went for it at 10 weeks, and we tried to implant some fat, or transplant some fat around my implants so they look just even a bit more natural. So my surgeon took the fat from my lower back and inserted it around my implants. And it is true that liposuction is incredibly painful. And that is something that I have not gone back to do. It lasted for a little while, but the surgery was just very painful and didn't change that much for me. So it's something that I've not done again. If it's something that is really important to you, or you want to try, or maybe you're looking to have some cosmetic surgery anyway, you might get maybe a 2-for-1, but for me, it just wasn't worth it. I'm glad I tried it once, but haven't gone back. Lastly, it's just really sort of a functional thing about implants, because my flaps are so thin, and because I have very, very little fat. to insulate my implants. And I live in Colorado, where it's quite cold most of the year. They do get pretty chilly. Sometimes I wish I had some sort of shearling bra or sheepskin bra to wear around in the winter. I do not, but it does get chilly. And that is something that I wish I had prepared for as well. Not much to be done. It's great to layer up, and that helps certainly, but they do get quite chilly, and that was a bit of a surprise to me. So what might I tell other women who are facing similar decisions that I had to face? I think the first thing that I would say is that it is so crucial to find a surgeon you trust, both a breast surgeon and a plastic surgeon. I met with my breast surgeon first and learned the options for mastectomy, for lumpectomy, those types of things. And then quickly she referred me to a plastic surgeon once I had made the decision to go with a bilateral mastectomy. She gave me a few options, and because I have a really long history and background in healthcare, I did my research and chose the plastic surgeon that I thought was going to be the best fit for me. And that was the best decision I made. Dr. Mushintat has actually done an interview with me for Brave earlier this year. And I just am so thankful for him and the care that he provided. So by far, in all of my treatment, Dr. Mushintat is the one that I saw the most often. In fact, I was in his office at least once a week, most of 2014, with seeing him for 3 surgeries, as well as seeing him for wound care, incision care, for expanding my expanders. And I'm so thankful for him still to this day, and just trust him implicitly. And so I would say it's so important to find surgeons that you trust. And it's also just so important, again, to know what implants you're going to receive if you plan to go that route. Again, there are some safety concerns, and some women don't tolerate implants, and some implants have higher safety concerns. So know those implants, know your surgeon, and trust your gut when it comes to making the right decision for you. And finally, I'd say that cancer can be really lonely and isolating, and the process of making all these decisions, waiting for tests, going through the process can feel excruciatingly painful, and long and exhausting and lonely. And so reaching out to people who have been through this really helps in my experience, and just talking through some of these things that you're facing and going through. You may have friends that have gone through this, or friends of friends, and so certainly reach out to people you know. But we're also here at Brave to support people who are diagnosed with breast cancer and facing reconstruction or just general treatment options, and this journey that we're on. So please, by all means, reach out to us at Brave Coalition if you're looking for someone to talk with who has been through this and who has faced these decisions. I think that really covers a lot of what I am hoping to share with you today, and some of the similar questions that I'll be asking fellow breast cancer survivors as we go forward in this journey. I hope you'll join us going forward. I hope you'll tune in. It's really important to hear stories, to be able to tell our stories, and to learn lessons, to learn what women are facing and women are experiencing, as well as men who are faced with a breast cancer diagnosis, and spouses and partners, what they go through. So I hope you'll tune in. I hope you'll join us. I also hope if there are any questions you are really hoping to get answers to or experiences that you want to hear about, please reach out to us. Please let us know. And if you're someone who has faced breast cancer, faced breast restoration, have gone through it with a partner, a spouse, and want to talk about your experience, please reach out to us and let me know. I will be more than happy to reach out to you and have a conversation and see if you might like to join us on this series that we are creating. So thank you so much for being here, for listening to my story, and for going on this journey with us at Brave Coalition. We truly appreciate our ambassadors, our sponsors, and all the people who are in our audience and supporting us at Brave and the women and the men that we support. So thank you so much. Stay tuned. We'll be coming to you again soon. I'll be interviewing another Brave ambassador here for Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And we wish you all well. Thank you. See you soon. Goodbye.